All right, so in the lab that you just completed, you would have walked through predicting the taxi fares for drivers in New York City. What we're interested in this lab in particular is not so much the how you train the model for taxi fares, but more so to understand what are the features from an explainability standpoint that had the greatest impact on the predictions that the model makes. So let's go through some of the highlights of how we can use the model explainability features of Azure Machine Learning to accomplish this goal. So in the beginning, we import the various sets of modules that we need. Nothing too surprising here, don't concern yourself too much with the details. One thing that we do need to do is enter our Azure subscription information so that we can get access to the Azure environment and connect to the Azure Machine Learning workspace. Sort of with that in place, we can begin the process of training our very simple model. There's a lot of code here, but let me step you through some of the important bits. First of all, we start with our data URL. So this is really just a CSV file, if I scroll to the right here, of the taxi sample data, CSV. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take that data from that URL and read it into a pandas data frame and do a little bit of data preparation against it. So the rest of this code really is just building up a pipeline that helps us clean and prepare the data to make the predictions, in other words, to train the model. So we'll run that pipeline, we'll create this pipeline object, and we'll call fit on that pipeline, passing in our training data set for the features and for the labels. And then we just make sure that we can run some predictions using our trained classifier. So the important takeaway of this whole cell at the end of it is that we have our trained model stored in the variable called CLF. Now, let's try to use the explainer capabilities of Azure Machine Learning to understand what features are important. We'll start by looking at a global explanation using a meta explainer. As you saw in this particular case, we're just working against tabular data, so we're going to use a tabular explainer. So let's focus on this particular cell. So first of all, we grab the specific model from our pipeline, and we use that as an input to the constructor for the tabular explainer. We also pass in our training features, and we give it the column names, and of course the transformations that were performed against those features used prior to training the model. This will give us an instance of a tabular explainer. And then we can use that tabular explainer to identify what were the most important features globally. So across all of the data, which features had the most importance.